this is Magnus. Today I wanted to talk to you about a couple of things that I use and the reasons why I use them for when I'm filming a video. Just want to talk about camera, a couple of the lenses, and then of course how I use them. First things first. When I got into filming videos, the one thing that I was looking for, it was pretty much video quality. Not only when I film myself, but when I film others in whatever situation that they want to go for. Number one problem that I had was, of course, what camera do I start off? Now, first I started off with buying an H4N, which is a Canon kind of professional quality video camera. But then, of course, when I wanted to buy my second camera, filling in with buying a DSLR instead of buying a regular video camera. Now, of course, that comes with a lot of intricacies because you've got to buy not only the DSLR, but the lens and the proper equipment to be able to use the DSLR as a video camera, and of course, understanding its limitations. So my first purchase, of course, was to buy a full-frame DSLR, because full-frame gives you the best depth of field and gives you the ability to film great quality footage in a low-light situation. So I actually started off with purchasing a Canon 6D. The 6D interested me because of its affordability versus buying a 5D Mark III with slightly less features as a 5D Mark III, but comparable quality. For videos, it helped out a lot. Plus, some of the additional features that it included was a Wi-Fi connections, a GPS system, which allows you to take a photo. You can geotag your shots. When I bought this camera, I didn't know much about lenses, but the availability of an expanded feature set of lenses is something that caught my attention. So the first lens that I bought, without knowing too much about lenses, was this 70-300 f4 to 5.6 lens. But I really wanted a zoom lens because, especially when you're filming footage, you have to be able to work with moving subjects and not knowing what you're going to do next, especially if you're filming a certain type of event such as a dance or a wedding. You need to be able to move dynamically around your shots, which is why I wanted a zoom lens. When I got this lens, I noticed that I had to back away from my shots. And then the other caveat that I learned that actually was a plus was the depth of field when you're using a zoom lens or a long focal range lens is amazing. Added blur effect was something that I really shot for. So a zoom lens was where I started, and I actually was pretty pleased. I shot a couple of weddings and of course other presentations with this lens, but then I noticed that I needed something a little bit more adaptable to different situations. Something when I'm shooting in a closed room, or if I'm shooting something where I'm actually far away, can still kind of zoom in a little bit without having to jump in and really get close to my subject. And that was when I started to learn a lot more about lenses, and I purchased a 24-7 USM 2L lens, 2.8 aperture. So I actually really enjoyed using this lens because the quality just jumped up tenfold. Hooking it up with my Canon 6D was amazing. Not only picture quality, but the video quality was just something that I particularly enjoyed. A couple of the caveats and the challenges that I've had with this, of course, is that because you don't have an articulating screen, you really have to be in front of the camera filming as much as possible. That's where tripods come in. If you're in one position, it really helps keeping that shot steady. Or I purchased a couple of rigs to also help with my stability in my shots. And I found that my best friend is using a Manfrotto monopod with this thing because it really helps you get up, move around, set up quickly, and just really just go for your shots and get something great. Another thing that I enjoyed about using this camera was the fact that I can pretty much impress clients with taking a quick shot at shooting video and then showing them on the screen right away and say, hey, this is what I can produce for you. What do you think? And they just loved it. As opposed to my video camera that had a smaller sensor that it looked pretty much average. I'm actually filming this right now with my H4N, which is out of norm because I would usually film most of my videos with this 6D, if not with the Samsung NX1, which is another amazing camera that shoots 4K quality footage, but that's for another time. Final thoughts on my experience with the 6D is that there are features that I wish it had, of course. Faster frame rate for slow motion footage. I wish it had the ability to shoot 4K, but of course this camera came out in 2012, so at this point I would expect that Mark II, or a second version of the 6D, would come out sooner than later. If you're curious as to know where the 6D lands in Canon quality cameras, I'd say right now the 1DX Mark II, more powerful than this. The 5D Mark III, which came out slightly before this, is one grade up. 7D Mark II, which is an APS-C sensor, versus the full frame of this. So in my opinion, I wanted to go full frame from that greater depth of field. But for video quality footage, especially for action footage or other types of autofocus, the ability to autofocus 7D Mark II has, which this one doesn't. And it's a newer camera, so it would have that. This line of camera is something that I appreciate that comes close to the 5D series, which is why I'm leaning towards this. My next DSLR will probably be a 5D Mark II, just because I want a little bit more expanded features, and with my experience, I feel that I would make full use of that camera once I get it, as long as it has competitive 4K. If it doesn't, then I might actually look elsewhere, because I'm interested in Ultra HD and 4K resolutions, because you can still rescue a lot of that pure footage when you have a high resolution and just downscale it. Just as much as the camera is, the actual equipment that you purchase is vital, which comes to microphones, lighting, whatnot. So the other thing I want to touch upon is that when you buy a DSLR to film video, besides the caveats that you have, which is of course stabilization, keeping your video steady, one of the big downsides is the ability to record audio. Now the audio on this camera is not that great. I'd say it's subpar. One particular problem that I have while filming, which other DSLRs might have, but I don't have much experience with others since this is really the first one that I've used. I use an NX1, which is a mirrorless camera, for some of my shots, which I'll talk about next time, but the ability to record audio is important. The quality of the audio is subpar. For example, I'd be recording some footage and I'd hear some noise as it's recording, and that slight noise from the camera is picked up in the audio. If you have audio and that's your only sense of audio, your audio is going to be affected by that. So I recommend against using audio off the camera and get a separate system. I actually purchased a Zoom H4N, which is what I'm using to record this audio right now, and a lavalier microphone that's hooked up to me because I'm doing this interview. But an H4N is like a mini audio studio. I have a couple of these, and the quality and the ability to put this where I need it for audio is just vital when it comes to recording audio. And sometimes I'll even just put it on top of the camera like this. Use it as a shotgun mic. And it's actually recording great audio, which you're listening to right now if you want to see what it sounds like. Basically, those are just a couple of the subjects I want to touch upon now without getting into too much. I feel that I covered a broad range of items that I normally use. You can make my day if you subscribe today. This is Magnus, and I'm out.